everyone can hear me?
Your name and your rank.
Okay, I'll cover that before I start. Anyone got any issues with the volume or anything?
Maybe a little louder.
I'll try my best. I can't promise on the traffic though. Okay. All right. If you guys are ready, I'll start when I'm ready. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Colonel Tom Holliday. I'm the Garrison Commander for Redstone Arsenal. I've got a few remarks to make about the incident that occurred today on the Arsenal. First and foremost, I want to say that safety is our #1 concern for the workforce. It is absolutely vital that that is the first thing that we think about in the morning, and it is the last thing we think about at night. With the incident in question, it has been determined that there was no active shooter and that there were no casualties associated to this incident. The incident is now under investigation by the Criminal Investigation Command. At approximately 9:40 this morning, we received 2 911 calls about a potential active shooter at the Sparkman complex. We immediately responded to the incident, secured the entire arsenal until we could determine the extent of the incident that was occurring. At 12:50, after determining that this was an isolated incident to the Sparkman complex, we resumed normal operations on the arsenal while we continued to conduct a deliberate clearance of the Sparkman complex. The building was cleared at 14:50 this afternoon, and the incident then moved into its investigation phase. What I really want to make clear is that when it comes to the safety and security of our workforce, our systems worked. That was proven today. The drills and training that we do on a daily basis panned out and worked the way we needed it to work. We will be conducting an after-action review in order to further refine our responses and ensure the continued safety and security of our workforce. I want to thank all the partners involved, both on the arsenal, at the local, state, and federal level, as many of them came forward to assist. Their help was absolutely invaluable. At this time, I'll take questions.
What did happen? What was the content of those 911 calls?
Ma'am, initially, as you know from 911 calls, what you get is very limited information. So what we received were 2 reports of a potential active shooter.
Was this some sort of hoax?
That's under investigation. Yes, sir.
Colonel, sir, you talked about it moving from the investigation phase into criminal phase. Elaborate?
No, sir, not criminal phase. So what I said was it is moved into an investigation phase, which is underneath the Criminal Investigation Command. That's the military's version of our investigators.
So was there a crime today?
We don't know. That's under investigation.
Colonel,
Yes, sir.
do you know the location of where those 911 calls came from?
That's under investigation. We know they came from the building, but we don't have the other information to be able to pinpoint that.
Colonel, who used the language, run,
Hang on a second, ma'am.
Sir, could this be related to anything involving the drills that the simulation was conducted this week and erroneous report led to today?
There was a plan for an exercise, an active shooter exercise this week. This is not part of that exercise at all. And we don't know if there was any bleed over. That has not been determined. Yes, ma'am.
Colonel, could you please use that initial language of run, hide, and fight? Where did that come from?
Ma'am, that is the standard response that we train all of our people on for an active shooter event. And so if you have that event, that is the language and that is the actions that we anticipate and would like our people to abide by. Yes, sir. Hang on a second, ma'am. I'll come back to you.
You told us a potential active shooter. There's never an actual active shooter. Can you tell us in these 911 calls, these reports, did anyone actually see a gun or hear shots? Why was this?
So, again, the initial reports, as initial reports are, they're always confused. We did have initial reports of someone hearing shots fired and someone seeing a weapon. That, in and of itself, along with the incident, drove us to our response. but the response panned out that those were not actually credible information. I'm sorry.
Did
Yes,
those
ma'am.
calls come from inside the Sparkman Center?
Yes, ma'am, they did.
Any
Sir?
shots
I've got
fired?
one question and a follow-up. Stephen McLean, Channel 48. The first one was, there was a lot of people who were at the Sparkman Center. Y'all sent out text messages asking them to respond with a number, letting them know, are you seeking shelter? Do you need assistance? Currently not on post or acknowledged. Are you familiar with that?
Absolutely. And so
what we were being told from them is that the cell phones that they had in and around that building either had one bar or no service, and they were trying to respond and could not. Are y'all familiar with that communication problem?
I haven't heard about that issue yet, sir, but we'll take that into consideration and look into that as part of the investigation.
And my follow-up question is, do you plan to still have the drill later this week?
The drill later this week has been canceled. We believe that we have learned everything we needed to as part of the event that occurred today. Yes, ma'am.
Between 9:40 a.m. and 2:50 p.m., what takes so long to clear that area to officially determine that no one is running around with a gun?
So you have to understand the size of that building. It is about 1.5 million square feet, and so it does take time to ensure that every single room, every single person is contacted and cleared. And so there is just a long time that it takes to do that. The immediate building that we were initially notified was cleared within about an hour and a half. That was the initial concern, but because of the structure of the building, we had to clear the entire facility.
And a quick follow-up, when did employees in the Arsenal know that there was an issue?
That was at 2:15 this afternoon when we declared it cleared. Yes, ma'am.
Colonel, two more to please clarify. Were there in fact shots fired? If so, who is the law enforcement agency, military and state, investigating?
So two answers. One, we have no evidence of shots actually fired. The second one is the Criminal Investigation Command or Criminal Investigation Division, CID, is responsible for that investigation.
Has anybody been
ma'am.
arrested or charged or apprehended at this point?
No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Obviously, ma'am, we've learned from all of those events. All of that was put into practice. As I mentioned, the drills and training that we have, all of that came to fruition today. And I believe that we saw very clearly that the reaction of our first responders is spot on. And as I mentioned, I can't thank them enough. And then we had additional assets from off the Arsenal that assisted in that, and their assistance was invaluable. Right here, sir. Sir, I'm not going to go into the investigation, and I don't know if they were landline or cell phone at this time. Sorry. One question over here. I'll come back to you.
With any miscommunication or confusion over tomorrow's drill, it does not factor in at all?
I don't know that answer. That is part of the investigation to determine.
Colonel, you said that people called 911 saying that they heard gunshots and they saw guns, causing a big panic. There were a lot of people worried about their loved ones on post. Talk about, is it frustrating to have all of this happen? Someone say that they saw a gun and they heard shots when those shots were fired?
I would say that the situation that we live in the United States today leads to caution over, and honestly, if we have to overreact, I would rather overreact than underreact.
Did you overreact today?
I don't believe we did, given the situation that was presented to us. Yes, sir.
Colonel, what about the exercise planned for tomorrow?
As I mentioned, the exercise tomorrow has been canceled. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Colonel, sir, Benson with ABC in Birmingham. Sorry about this earlier. Talk about the rumors. We've heard some of everything you can imagine. Can you kind of recap exactly everything from start to finish, from the call to identifying that there was no shots fired and no victims? You said there's no evidence of shots fired. I'm assuming that means there's no victim, whether connected.
Correct. There are no casualties associated to this event. I will tell you, we did have a few medical calls that came in as we evacuated people outside the building. They're obviously, I mean, you guys have been out here for most of the day. You know how hot it's been. So we did have to respond to a few medical calls associated to people being out in the elements when they normally wouldn't be. But there was no casualty associated to the active shooter or potential active shooter event that occurred.
Did you
Just
find
clarify,
anyone
no
with,
domestic type of issue whatsoever?
No.
did you find anyone with a weapon or what may have sparked the noise that people mistook?
That's all going to be part of the investigation,
Did you
ma'am. At this
find
point, we
anyone-
don't have anything that we could lead to that.
Did you find anyone with guns?
No, ma'am, we have not at this point. Yes, sir.
Colonel Alan Stroud with Channel 48 in Huntsville. The next drill you said tomorrow will not be happening. Do we have any idea when the next scheduled drill will take place, and will there be any changes with that drill? Will that be done any differently?
Well, as I mentioned, we will take lessons learned from this event. We will apply those to any future exercises that we conduct, but that is all part of the process. We do not have one scheduled at this point. Last question. Yes, ma'am.
Was there anyone here, any people here at the time who wouldn't normally be here, who may have heard something, but took it for gunshots in the middle of testing and all the other noises that come from this area? Is there a way to explain it some other way?
Ma'am, I'm not going to speculate on what the investigation will determine. I can tell you that there were no external elements that, as you mentioned, could have mistaken it. We didn't have any visitors in that area this morning, but I'm not going to speculate on whether or not anyone misunderstood or didn't. That'll come out in the investigation. Thank you.
What were today?
Thank you. No, thank you.